Thousands of years before modern religion, before empires, before the pyramids of Egypt etched their silhouettes against the desert sky, before the first words of the Bible were ever inscribed, before the very concept of kings and empires had taken root in the human mind, there was a story whispered in the dust of a civilization so ancient, its memory has almost faded into myth. In the cradle of humanity, the people of ancient Sumer looked to the heavens, not with empty wonder, but with a sense of profound familiarity. They told stories of powerful, enigmatic beings they called the Anunnaki. Ancient Sumerian texts, the oldest written records of human thought, described them as rulers from the heavens. Gods connected to the very fabric of existence, to creation, to destruction, and to the ultimate fate of mankind itself. But were these grand tales simply the allegories of a nascent culture, attempts to explain the terrifying and inexplicable forces of nature? Were they merely myths, or were they memories? Faint echoes of a forgotten chapter in the human story, a chapter humanity could never fully explain, and perhaps was never meant to. The mystery begins not in the stars, but in the sun-baked earth of Mesopotamia. This is the land between the rivers, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. A fertile crescent carved out of an otherwise harsh and unforgiving wilderness. It was here, in what is now modern-day Iraq, that the seeds of civilization were sown over 6,000 years ago. This was the land of Sumer. For millennia, nomadic tribes had wandered these plains. But here, something changed. The Sumerians learned to tame the rivers, to channel their life-giving waters into a complex network of canals. This mastery over their environment allowed them to do something unprecedented, to stay in one place. Agriculture flourished, creating a surplus of food that freed hands for other tasks. Potters, weavers, builders, and thinkers emerged. Small settlements swelled into the world's first true cities. Uruk, Ur, Eridu. These were not just collections of houses. They were complex urban societies with organized labor, social hierarchies, and a shared culture. At the heart of each city, dominating the skyline, stood the ziggurat, a colossal, stepped pyramid. It was more than just a temple. It was a man-made mountain, a symbolic ladder connecting the mortal realm of the city below with the divine realm of the heavens above. It was the center of spiritual, economic, and political life. Within these sacred precincts, a powerful priest class managed the city's wealth, oversaw religious rituals, and studied the movements of the stars. They believed the will of the gods could be read in the celestial patterns, and that their own fate was inextricably linked to these powerful, unseen forces. But to manage a society this complex, they needed a tool more powerful than any plow or hammer. They needed a way to record their world, and so, the Sumerians invented writing. They called it cuneiform, from the Latin for wedge-shaped. What began as a simple accounting system for tracking grain and livestock soon evolved into something far more profound. It became a medium for law, for literature, for history, and for myth. For thousands of years, the meaning of these tablets was lost, their stories silenced by the sands of time. But in the 19th century, intrepid archaeologists and linguists began the painstaking process of deciphering this ancient script. As they unlocked the secrets held within the clay, they unveiled a worldview that was both alien and startlingly familiar. They discovered epics of heroes and monsters, hymns to the gods, and detailed king lists. But woven through it all was the consistent presence of a specific group of deities, a pantheon of immense power and influence, the Anunnaki. The name itself is a clue. In the Sumerian language, An means heaven or sky. Kai means earth. The name Anunnaki is most often translated as those who from heaven to earth came, or more simply, those of royal blood. This was not a vague, abstract concept of divinity. For the Sumerians, their gods had a specific origin, and it was not of this world. In these ancient texts, the Anunnaki were not distant ethereal spirits. They were described as tangible beings who walked the earth, who ate and drank, who built cities, and who governed the affairs of humanity with an iron fist. They were the divine council, the ultimate authority in the cosmos and on earth. The Sumerian pantheon was vast and complex, but a core group of Anunnaki held supreme power. They were described as divine beings connected to the sky, the underworld, and the very fate of humanity. Their decisions, made in a celestial assembly, determined the destiny of kings and the flooding of rivers. The Sumerians believed these gods were physically present in their temples, embodied within the sacred statues crafted in their image. Priests were not just praying to an idea, they were serving a living deity, bathing, clothing, and feeding the idol as if it were a flesh and blood ruler. The temple was the god's earthly palace. This belief system was the bedrock of their entire civilization. It informed their art, their architecture, their laws, and their understanding of their place in the universe. To understand the Sumerians is to understand their relationship with the Anunnaki. Our journey into this profound mystery, therefore, must begin where it all started, in the cradle of civilization itself, Mesopotamia. It was here, in this land of firsts, that humanity first wrote down its greatest hopes, its deepest fears, and its most enduring questions about the gods who came from the sky. According to ancient stories, the Anunnaki ruled over gods and men alike. Anu was the god of the heavens. Enlil controlled storms and authority. Enki was linked to wisdom, creation, and forbidden knowledge. At the heart of each Sumerian city stood the ziggurat, a colossal stepped pyramid that served as a man-made mountain. These were not places of public worship, but the exclusive domains of the deities. The archaeological record paints a picture of a society completely oriented towards serving these powerful beings. Some ancient tablets describe humanity being created to serve the gods. Humanity did not exist for its own sake. It was created to relieve the gods of their labor. He fashioned the first humans out of clay, mixing the clay with the blood of a slain god. These stories would later inspire theories claiming the Anunnaki were not gods at all, but advanced beings who came to Earth in the distant past. For millennia, the stories of the Anunnaki were confined to the realm of mythology, studied by scholars as the religious beliefs of a long-vanished civilization. They were gods of the sky, the earth, and the underworld. Powerful but symbolic figures born from humanity's earliest attempts to comprehend the cosmos. But in the 20th century, a period defined by technological leaps and a burgeoning fascination with outer space, these ancient gods were about to be radically reimagined. As humanity took its first steps beyond Earth's atmosphere, a new question began to permeate popular culture. If we could travel to the stars, could someone else have already done the same? This question ignited a paradigm shift, casting the ancient world in a new, speculative light. In this fertile ground of cosmic curiosity, controversial theories transformed the Anunnaki from divine symbols into flesh and blood extraterrestrial visitors. A new wave of authors and independent researchers began to connect the dots between ancient myths and modern science fiction. They claimed the ancient gods did not descend from a symbolic heaven, but from a physical, tangible one. They came from the stars. These writers proposed that the Anunnaki were not gods in the supernatural sense, but advanced beings from another world, who possessed technology far beyond that of early humans. According to this theory, these star travelers were the architects of our civilization. They were credited with jump-starting human progress, teaching mankind everything from astronomy and mathematics to law and social structure. The sudden explosion of knowledge in Sumer, the the birth of writing, the construction of massive ziggurats, the development of complex city-states was reinterpreted not as human ingenuity, but as a gift from these celestial benefactors. The myths of gods giving wisdom to mortals were now read as a literal historical record of first contact. This radical reinterpretation was popularized and brought into the mainstream consciousness largely by one author, Zechariah Sitchin. A self-taught scholar of Sumerian cuneiform, Sitchin published a series of books beginning in the 1970s that laid out an audacious and detailed narrative. He claimed that the Anunnaki hailed from a yet undiscovered planet in our own solar system, which he called Nibiru. Sitchin's translation of the ancient texts led him to believe that Nibiru had an elongated 3,600-year orbit that periodically brought it into proximity with Earth. It was during these passages, he argued, that the Anunnaki descended to our world. Their purpose? To mine Earth's most precious resource, gold. Not for wealth, but for survival, to repair the deteriorating atmosphere of their homeworld. And to perform this arduous labor, they needed a workforce. Sitchin controversially proposed that the Anunnaki genetically engineered primitive hominids to create a new species, Homo sapiens. Thus, the theory is compelling, and its proponents point to specific Sumerian symbols as proof. Central to their argument is the cuneiform sign Dingir. It is an 8-pointed star, a pictograph that appears ubiquitously in Mesopotamian texts. For ancient astronaut theorists, this symbol is a literal depiction of a star or planet, the home of the gods. They argue that when placed before a name, it signifies a being who came from the heavens. However, this interpretation is fiercely contested by mainstream academia. Archaeologists and linguists argue that these theories are built on a foundation of mistranslation and a profound misunderstanding of Mesopotamian culture. They contend that Sitchin and others exaggerate symbolic myths, transforming rich, complex metaphors into simplistic science fiction. For established scholars, the Dingir symbol is not a literal star. It is a determinative, a grammatical marker that clarifies the nature of the word that follows. Its meaning is abstract and conceptual. It signifies divinity, brightness, or the heavens in a spiritual sense. Placing it before a name like Enlil didn't mean Enlil, the man from a planet. It meant the divine Enlil, or the god Enlil. It was a way of classifying a being as sacred, separating gods from mortals within the written language itself. The interpretation of this single, crucial symbol represents the vast chasm between the ancient astronaut theory and conventional archaeology. Another point of contention is the depiction of the gods themselves. Proponents of the alien theory often point to carvings of figures wearing elaborate headgear as evidence of space helmets. But archaeologists provide a much simpler, more terrestrial explanation. The horned helmets worn by the gods were a consistent and well-documented artistic convention throughout Mesopotamian history, a visual shorthand signifying divinity. The more horns a figure had, the more powerful their divine status. It was a symbol of power, not a literal depiction of protective headwear for space travel. Ultimately, the greatest challenge to the ancient astronaut hypothesis is the stark and complete lack of physical evidence. For a civilization supposedly capable of interstellar travel, genetic engineering, and massive construction projects, the Anunnaki left behind no verifiable trace. Archaeologists have unearthed millions of artifacts from Mesopotamia, pottery, tools, tablets, and jewelry. But among them, there has never been a single object that is demonstrably of extraterrestrial origin. No advanced alloys, no power sources, no remnants of technology that defy explanation. The evidence for the Sumerian civilization is found in the Earth. The evidence for an alien intervention, critics argue, is found only in the pages of modern books. Among the most profound and enduring legacies of the Anunnaki narratives is their connection to a story that echoes across millennia and cultures, the story of a great flood. The Anunnaki also appear in ancient flood myths that closely resemble the story of Noah's Ark, forming a bridge between the world of Mesopotamian gods and the foundational texts of the Abrahamic faiths. While nearly every ancient civilization possessed a deluge myth, a tale of divine retribution washing the world clean, the versions recorded in the clay tablets of Mesopotamia are unique. They are not merely similar to the biblical account, they are its direct, identifiable ancestors. Long before the book of Genesis was written, Mesopotamian civilizations recorded tales of a catastrophic flood sent by the gods to annihilate humankind. These accounts, preserved in cuneiform on baked clay, provide a startlingly familiar blueprint. The earliest surviving version is the Sumerian tale of Ziusudra, a pious king who is warned of the gods' terrible plan. Later, the Akkadian Epic of Atrahasis elaborates on the reason for the flood. Humanity had become too numerous, their noise disturbing the sleep of the supreme god, Enlil. But the most famous and complete version is found within the Epic of Gilgamesh, on a tablet discovered in the ruins of the Great Library of Nineveh. When the 11th tablet of Gilgamesh was first translated in the 19th century, it sent shockwaves through the academic and religious worlds. When placed side by side with the biblical story of Noah's Ark, the parallels are astonishing, not just in broad strokes, but in specific, undeniable detail. The narrative structure, the sequence of events, and even the phrasing are too closely aligned to be a coincidence. It was a revelation that challenged long-held beliefs about the Bible's origins and uniqueness, suggesting its authors were drawing from a much older shared cultural wellspring of the ancient Near East. In both traditions, the decision to destroy humanity is made by a divine council. In the Mesopotamian version, it is the powerful but short-tempered Enlil who decrees mankind's end. However, another god, Enki, the god of wisdom and water, disagrees with the verdict. Bound by an oath not to speak directly to any mortal about the plan, Enki devises a clever workaround. He speaks not to the man, but to the wall of his reed hut, ensuring his favored human, Utnapishtim, overhears the warning in a dream. In both the Mesopotamian and biblical accounts, a single righteous man is chosen and secretly warned to build a massive boat. The instructions given are remarkably precise. Utnapishtim is told to tear down his house and use the materials to build a vessel of specific dimensions, waterproofed with bitumen. He is commanded to save his family and bring aboard the seed of all living things. This mirrors the divine command given to Noah in Genesis, who is also instructed on the ark's construction and the need to preserve his family and pairs of every animal. Both men are tasked with becoming the sole custodians of life on earth, entrusted with the monumental responsibility of repopulating a world about to be wiped clean. The parallels continue after the storm subsides. Both arks come to rest on a mountaintop. To test if the waters have receded, both heroes send out birds in a specific sequence. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim releases a dove, then a swallow, and finally a raven, which does not return, signaling that dry land has appeared. In Genesis, Noah sends out a raven, and then a dove multiple times, with the dove eventually returning with an olive leaf. Upon leaving the ark, both Utnapishtim and Noah build an altar and offer a sacrifice to the gods, who are pleased by the offering. Given that the Mesopotamian texts predate the earliest known versions of Genesis by over 1,000 years, the vast majority of scholars today believe the biblical flood is a later adaptation of this much older Mesopotamian story. It is not a question of faith, but of historical and literary lineage. A powerful narrative passed down, reshaped, and retold, with the Anunnaki at its very origin, As empires rose and fell, the stories of the Anunnaki slowly faded into myth. Their influence shaped myths across cultures, leaving an indelible mark on Near Eastern religion and cosmology. Yet thousands of clay tablets remain, preserving the memory of gods humanity was never meant to forget. Were the Anunnaki merely mythological gods, or echoes of a forgotten chapter of human history? The truth may still lie buried beneath the sands of Mesopotamia. If this journey intrigued you, please like and subscribe for more.